Hi, everybody. Sorry I haven't been online lately. I'm sure you have noticed, like the rest of the world, that things have gone a bit crazy here in the last couple of weeks, and a lot of the stuff that I do as a pastor, which is what I do for my normal job. I'm the pastor of the First Baptist Church in South Londonderry, and some of the stuff I do as a volunteer firefighter has gotten in the way of me talking about the weather unless it's pretty important. On Sort of unfortunately, I love the weather, but it's not really great timing. Tomorrow into Tuesday, we are going to have some weather that has some, certainly at least travel implications and potentially even some power outage implications, which is why I wanted to post this video today. So hope everybody's staying isolated from people out there. I hope you're staying safe and healthy, and just wanted to give you a quick update on what's going on with the weather. So with that in mind, let's take a look first at the satellite imagery. Here we are, the end of March. We're going to finally get a coastal storm. We have essentially a pretty classic setup for a coastal snowstorm. We really have not had that all winter, hardly. You can see as we look at as we look at the satellite imagery, we have lots of energy, lots of clouds developing, and especially you can just kind of start to see down here over Georgia, we've got some shortwave energy kind of rounding the bottom of the trough, and that is going to form a low right off the Carolina, maybe a little north of that, but essentially right off the Atlantic coast. We haven't done that all winter. We've formed a few lows kind of way up here, which is kind of too late for us to get into more kind of classical snowstorm situations. We're going to start to form this low right where we would normally want to, and we're going to be just cold enough that most of the precipitation that falls is going to fall as snow. Now the storm doesn't have an incredible amount of moisture with it, thankfully, because that would be problematic from a power standpoint, but it's going to have plenty of moisture with it, and the snow could briefly fall pretty heavy. As you can see, there's still plenty of this is kind of the upper level energy along with the shortwave that's down here that's kind of forming the storm, and those two are the upper level energy is gonna support a storm that's gonna form, like I said, here, and it's gonna head kind of right up the coast and out to sea like that. That's basically a very classic storm track for us to get mostly snow. If this was anything but the end of March, we would definitely be getting all snow, and I think most of us, at least at higher elevations, will get all snow. It's a pretty classic, like I said, nor'easter track. It's not going to be a crazy strong storm, but it's going to be problematic, probably. Almost all the models are in agreement. There is a couple of holdouts that don't phase the energy quite as quick, but I think those holdouts aren't correct. So let's look at the radar. This kind of gives you a different picture. As you can see, right now the storm doesn't look overly impressive. That's because this is mostly an association with kind of a weak trough and upper level system, but it's really, you can just start to see actually already starting to get a little bit of an influence off the coast. That's just kind of moisture building, and to the south, way down here, we have some moisture that's starting to head, and these are all going to come together and form the storm. It's going to form far enough south. Now, in terms of temperatures, we're also not super cold, but we have a pocket of cold air. There's a high pressure system, a big strong high pressure system to our north, something we also have not had all winter, which is going to kind of lock the cold-ish air in place. I mean, if you've been outside today, it's above freezing, so you'd say, well, maybe it's going to be rain, not snow, but the dew point, it's very dry outside right now, and so the problem is as you moisten that air up, the temperature comes down, and will definitely, that'll give us the opportunity to have, even though it's going to snow mostly, some of it during the day and the afternoon tomorrow, which, this time of year in March, it gets hard, but if the snow comes down at all heavy, it will definitely probably be snow. Now, actually, at this point, we'd almost like a little more of this cold air to filter down in so that the snow wasn't sticky. We'll see how much that happens. Anyways, so those are the main setups. The setups are all there. What does that mean in terms of our weather here, and why am I a bit concerned? So basically, I'm looking for, we're going to get almost an inch probably of liquid equivalent precipitation. If it was fluffy snow, that'd mean close to a foot of snow. And we may even, some models put out even a little more than an inch. And so that would be fluffy snow. Now, it's not going to be fluffy snow except for maybe at, if you want to hike up to the top of Stratton or Bromley, you could probably find it'll probably be kind of powdery up there. Not powdery, but at least not as dense. But as you head down in elevation, it's going to get stickier and stickier until it eventually kind of mixes with rain. And so the problem there is, where's the transition where it's still basically mostly snow, but it's really sticky and it sticks to tree branches and causes potential problems. And unfortunately, if you live in the mountain towns, like I do in Londonderry, Weston, certainly Dover, if you live down even in Wardsboro, certainly Jamaica, kind of basically right up and down the spine of the Whitingham, especially as you head to west, out of town in Whitingham, all of those towns, there is the potential that somewhere in there the snow could be pretty heavy and wet, and just enough of it might fall that there might be some power outages. I don't think this is going to be widespread crazy power outages, but I want you to be aware that we could lose power, and there could be some places where you might be out of power for a day, which I'm sure is like the last thing you want to hear right now. Believe me, I hear you. I just want you to know that it's a possibility. So in terms of forecast, let's go to the forecast and we can talk a little bit about specifics. We're looking for heavy, wet snow. In general, 6 to 8 inches. And that's in general kind of for areas between 1,000 feet and 1,500 feet. A lot of the places that I forecast for here in the West River Valley that covers, but there's certainly a lot of you who listen to this channel who live lower than that, who live maybe between 500 and 1,000, or even, who live down in the Connecticut River Valley. The lower you go in elevation, the less snow you'll get. Kind of a 3 to 5 inch snowstorm for some of those lower elevations. Certainly, especially by the time you get down to 500 feet, you may only be 3 or 4 inches of kind of real dense snow. I think it'll be kind of mixed with enough rain potentially, especially as we get into the heaviest part of the storm, that I don't think you'll have power issues. The power issues are probably for slightly higher elevations. From 1,000 feet to 2,000 feet, that's where that general 6 to 8 inches is. Of course, the higher you are, the more you'll get out of this. And like I said, that's the area right now I'm most concerned for power outages. I don't think they'll be hugely widespread, but you should be prepared, be prepared to lose power for a few hours, maybe a day, hopefully not longer than that. But I just want you to be prepared. Above that, above 2,500 feet, the snow should start to get a little more powdery, and you could get up to a foot of snow for some of the mountains, maybe even a little bit more for the highest elevations. So snow begins between noon and 2 p.m. tomorrow, but really should start kind of light. It's going to take a while. We're so dry, it's going to take a while for the snow that starts to fall to really moisten up so that it can fall heavier. Comes down heaviest between 4 p.m. and midnight, and it could come down in a pretty good slug. We could get inch to inch and a half of snow for an hour for a while between 4 and midnight. Not the whole time, but we could certainly get some bands like that. So travel tomorrow evening is going to be tough. Stay home. You should be staying home anyway, but really stay home. The snow will be wet and heavy with some chance for power outages, as I've mentioned many times. And like I said, I think the mountain towns are at greatest risk for power outages. So basically, what does that mean? If you lose water when you don't have power, I set aside some drinking water, and also certainly some water for if you think you might need to flush the toilet a couple of times. I would set aside, if you have a generator, I'd kind of just make sure it was ready to go. The good thing is the snow will melt relatively quickly on the backside of the storm. We will warm up, not immediately, but relatively soon. So don't feel like you have to do a great job shoveling. Just kind of get what you need to get out of the way, and the rest of it should hopefully melt within the next week and a half. But basically, yeah, just wanted you to have a heads up, and hope you're all staying safe out there, and hope you're all staying healthy. And I will, certainly whenever the weather gets overly dramatic here, I'll try to keep you advised. But like I said, with pastoring and with fire department stuff, my time is kind of limited at the moment. So if you have any questions, though, feel free to ask them in the comment section. I like to answer the questions. I like to answer the text questions still. It's a fun thing for me to focus on. And yeah, so like I said, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll get back to you again real soon.